You ever smelled something so good it felt like it was calling your soul? That's what happened to me that morning. I was standing in my treehouse kitchen, just finishing my famous cloud soufflé, when something in the air changed. It wasn't my soufflé. It was something else. A scent so rich, so deep, it stopped time. I leaned out my window. The wind carried it from the east, from the edge of Miaolin, near the old spice market. Nobody's cooked there in years. I grabbed my satchel, stuffed it with spices, and threw on my chef's hat. Then I jumped on my scooter and followed the scent. The streets were quiet. Too quiet. Even the birds seemed to hold their breath. As I neared the spice market, the smell grew stronger. It wasn't just food. It was memory. It was mystery. It was magic. And then I saw it. A glowing food stall I'd never seen before. Velvet curtains. Golden trim. A single steaming dish. No chef. No customers. Just the scent. A sign read, "The Phantom of Flavor." One dish. One champion. I blinked. Was this a prank? Then a voice came from behind the curtain. The kind of chef who lets the food speak. I froze. Someone was challenging me. In my own town. And they were doing it silently. With flavor. I tightened my grip on my spoon. This wasn't just cooking anymore. This was war. And I never lose. I stepped closer to the glowing stall. The air shimmered like heat waves over a summer road. I reached out my paw to lift the curtain, but the moment I touched it, a flash of light blinded me. When I opened my eyes, I was no longer in Miaolin. I stood in the middle of a floating kitchen. Spices levitated in glass jars. Knives twirled through the air like dancers. The phantom was real. And he was testing me. A voice echoed through the space. 1 dish. 10 ingredients. No mistakes. Then a golden scroll floated in front of me. On it names of ingredients I'd never heard of. Fire lotus seed. Sky milk. Ghost truffle. Dreamberry foam. Where was I supposed to find these? I blinked, and suddenly, portals opened around me. Each led to a strange world. One frozen, one flaming, one upside down. This wasn't cooking. This was a quest. And I had 1 hour. My paws were trembling. But I smiled. Because if there's one thing I love more than cooking, it's impossible recipes. I jumped into the first portal, the frozen world. Snowflakes sliced the air like tiny blades. I dug through the ice and found the fire lotus seeds burning hot even in frost. 1 down. 9 to go. The clock was ticking. And the phantom was watching. I leapt out of the ice portal, seeds clutched in my paw. Steam rising from the frost on my whiskers. The second portal shimmered red the flaming world. I dove in. The heat hit me like a brick oven. Rivers of lava bubbled around narrow stone bridges. In the distance, a creature soared half-dragon, half-chicken guarding the ghost truffle. It was roasting the truffle mid-air with its fiery breath. "Okay," I whispered. "Just act natural." I crept closer, tiptoeing on scorched rocks. Suddenly snap. A pebble crumbled under my foot. The dragon chicken turned. It locked eyes with me. I ran. It chased me through volcanic vents and collapsing cliffs. Just when it opened its beak to incinerate me, I tossed a pepper into its mouth. It hiccuped, sneezed, and dropped the ghost truffle. I grabbed it midair and jumped through the portal home. 2 ingredients down. My fur, singed. My heart, racing. Next was the world of mirrors. Everything was upside down. Left was right, up was sideways, and my reflection. Blinked when I didn't. The sky milk hovered in liquid globes above me. I had to jump, bounce, spin. It was like a ballet of chaos. 1 wrong move and the whole world shattered like glass. But I caught the sky milk. 3 ingredients. Time. 38 minutes left. Then the kitchen shifted. The phantom appeared in a swirl of blue smoke. "You're fast, kitten," he said. "But can you stay sharp when the recipe fights back?" And with that the kitchen came alive. Pots flew. Flames danced. And I realized the hardest part hadn't even begun. The kitchen twisted like a tornado. Knives hovered midair, slicing invisible onions. Pots drummed on their own. And the recipe, it floated above the counter, rewriting itself, glowing with eerie ink. Step 4. Mix the 3 ingredients, while balancing on a floating spoon. Seriously? I muttered, but I climbed onto the giant spoon, now levitating above a pit of giggling jellyfish. With one paw, I poured the frost seeds. With the other, I held the ghost truffle. And with my tail, I uncorked the sky milk. They mixed in midair, swirling, sizzling, sparkling. The phantom appeared again. "You're doing better than expected, Chef Paws." I narrowed my eyes. "What's your deal? Why steal this recipe?" He smirked. "Because it's more than a recipe. It's a weapon." Suddenly, the floating spoon tilted. I slipped dangling by a claw. Below me, the jellyfish started chanting, "Fall, fall, fall." I swung back up, heart pounding, and completed the mix. A glowing orb formed the essence of the dish. The kitchen stilled. But the recipe wasn't done. Final step: add the ingredient you fear most. My ears drooped. I knew what that was. I glanced at the fridge, the cold storage. I opened the door, and there it was, the thing I feared since kittenhood. The pickle of prophecy. Slimy, sentient, smelled like regret. It blinked. "I've been waiting for you, feline." I gulped. "You can talk." The pickle of prophecy squinted. "Of course I can. I'm fermented wisdom." I reached for it slowly. "Don't do it, Chef Paws," it hissed. "Add me, and nothing will ever be the same." I hesitated. My fur bristled, but the recipe floated beside me, pulsing, waiting. I whispered, "For the truth," and dropped the pickle into the dish. Boom! A flash of green light exploded across the kitchen. Time slowed. Everything froze, even the flame under the stove hovered in place. Then, a vision. I stood in a future where the world had changed. My restaurant Chef Paws kitchen was the only place still cooking. People lined up for miles. Not for food, but for answers. Each dish I served unlocked a memory, a secret, a hidden truth they didn't even know they'd forgotten. I saw faces crying, laughing, collapsing in revelation. Then I saw the phantom standing in the middle of it all, smiling, applauding. "You see now." His voice echoed in the vision. "It's not food. It's power." I snapped back. The dish was done. Floating in front of me was a single glowing dumpling, warm, otherworldly, whispering, "Eat me." I didn't want to, but I had to. I opened my mouth, and the world turned inside out. I fell through memories that weren't mine. Cities I'd never visited. People I'd never met. Emotions I had no name for. I landed in a memory, but it wasn't mine. It was the phantom's. He was just a kitten, locked in a cold pantry, crying, hungry. The only light, a cookbook. He read it by moonlight, whispering recipes to himself like prayers. And then someone opened the door. A chef. Tall, harsh, unsmiling. "You want to eat?" The chef barked, "Cook." That's when it started. The phantom, once a forgotten kitten, became obsessed. He cooked to survive, then to impress, then to control. Each dish he made wasn't food. It was armor. I jolted awake. Back in the kitchen. The glowing dumpling. Gone. But I remembered everything. He wasn't evil. He was broken. I turned to Max, my raccoon assistant, who was shaking. "Chef," he said, "your eyes. They were glowing." I took a breath. "Max, we have to find the phantom. And we have to cook together." Max blinked. "With him?" "Yes," I said. "Only together can we finish the final recipe." Max clutched my tail. "I don't like this." He muttered I didn't either. But I followed the scent, not of food. Of guilt. We found him in an abandoned food truck, staring at a boiling pot. His back turned. "I know you're here," he said, voice sharp. But tired, I stepped forward. "I saw your memories." He flinched. "I didn't choose this." He whispered, "You chose to stay in it." I replied. He turned. Eyes glowing faintly blue, pain behind them. "You think you can fix this with a casserole?" He snapped, No, I said, but maybe with a collaboration. He laughed bitterly. I destroyed your kitchen. And I rebuilt it, I said, because that's what chefs do. Silence, then a nod. Fine, he said. One dish. Together. We stood side by side. 2 chefs, 1 kitchen. 1,000 unspoken wounds between us. The recipe hovered above the counter, alive, waiting. Max preheated the oven while I passed the phantom a whisk. He blinked, as if no one had trusted him with a tool in years. We began, chopping, stirring, measuring. Every move was delicate, precise. Like healing with flavor. We didn't speak, but somehow, we understood each other. He added a touch of bitterness. I balanced it with sweetness. He poured in silence, I stirred in forgiveness. At one point, our paws brushed. He pulled back, then slowly placed a pinch of salt. Salt is memory, he said. I nodded. And pepper is courage. Steam rose, color swirled. The scent, it wasn't food anymore. It was hope. Max watched, wide-eyed. It's like watching magic. He whispered. We plated the final dish. Not to eat, but to share. We didn't need to taste it. We already knew what it was. The truth, cooked slowly. Max carefully carried the plate into the main hall. The lights dimmed, our guests leaned forward. A single bite was taken. Silence, then, gasps. Tears, laughter. Memories resurfacing like bubbles from deep water. An old lady whispered, I remember my mother's kitchen. A child hugged his father. A rival shook hands with another. Walls fell, hearts opened. The dish had done its job. The mayor stood and wiped his eyes. I don't know what you put in this, but it tastes like forgiveness. I glanced at the phantom. He wasn't wearing the mask anymore. His face, not scary, not sad, just real. Tired, maybe, but peaceful. He looked at me. You knew. He said softly. I nodded. You weren't the villain, just the missing piece. Max jumped up. We have to keep cooking like this. The phantom smiled. Only if we cook together. The next morning, the sun poured golden light into our little kitchen. No longer broken. No longer haunted. We rebuilt it together brick by brick, memory by memory. The phantom, or rather, Elliot stayed. He taught us not just recipes, but how to listen to silence, how to taste time, how to stir love into every bite. We renamed the restaurant. No longer The Last Supper. Now it was Paws and Soul. People traveled from distant towns, not just for the food, but for the feeling, the warmth, the magic. Max became our head taster. Luna ran the bakery. Elliot quietly chopped vegetables by the window. As for me, I just kept stirring the pot, one paw at a time. Because sometimes, a recipe isn't written in books. It's written in people, in second chances, in the soft clink of a spoon, and the courage to serve the truth, even when it burns. And that was the recipe that saved us all.